The great preacher George Buttrick was once on an airplane headed home from a conference. During the flight, he pulled out a notepad to work on Sunday's sermon. After a few minutes, the man sitting next to him spoke up. "I'm sorry to interrupt you," he said, "but I can see how hard you're working, and I just have to ask, what are you doing?" "I'm a minister," Buttrick replied, "and I'm writing my sermon for Sunday." "Ah, religion," said the man. "I can't say I'm much into the complexities of religion myself. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The golden rule. That's about all the religion I need." "I see," said Buttrick. "And what do you do?" "I'm an astronomy professor," said the man. "I teach at the university." "Ah, astronomy," said Buttrick. "I can't say I know much about the complexities of astronomy. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. That's about all the astronomy I need." In just about every sphere of life, from relationships to politics to science to religion, we are tempted to reduce complex concepts to simple ideas that are easy for us to grasp. We long to break things down into the lowest common denominator that we can either then accept or reject. Something about being human makes us prone to categorize, compartmentalize, and stereotype. We long for certainty. Can you think of a time when you were certain you understood something or someone? When you really thought you had figured out what this person or organization or idea was all about? But then something happened and your sense of certainty was called into question? That's not a great feeling, is it? It's disorienting and often disappointing. And yet, if the stories of our faith tradition teach us anything, it's that when we admit and even embrace uncertainty, that's when God begins the hard but important work of transforming us. Not long after my friend Samantha graduated from seminary in New York City and accepted a call to a church in Asheville, North Carolina, committed to social justice, she took a trip to New Orleans with some friends. They marveled at the way this city brings together a wild mix of cultures, French and Cajun, African, Spanish, English, welcoming all kinds of people as they are. One day, Samantha and her friends embarked on a self-guided walking tour of some of the city's historic houses. They came upon a beautiful yellow mansion, which had a sign in front identifying it as an inn. They began talking to the manager of the inn, and Samantha asked him who used to own this house. "It was owned by a Presbyterian minister," the man replied. Samantha's face lit up. "Really?" she said. "Actually, I'm a Presbyterian minister." "Oh, is that right?" the man said. "Well, that guy's name was the Reverend Benjamin Palmer, and he was a big racist. In fact, they say his Thanksgiving sermon inspired the state of Louisiana to break away from the Union." "Huh," Samantha said. "Did I say I was a Presbyterian minister?" What she wanted in that moment was to become invisible. She had been so certain of what it meant to be a minister, a follower of Jesus Christ, and she left that interaction deeply unsettled by the realization that someone with the title of reverend would perpetuate injustice and suffering rather than work to eliminate it. At the beginning of today's passage, Jesus doesn't just invite the disciples to take a boat across a sea that was notorious for getting swept up in sudden storms. He makes them go. The Greek word here could be translated, he compels them to go. And they aren't going home or to their favorite vacation spot. He sends them to the other side, to an unfamiliar place, to people they don't know, to a destination that was not particularly appealing. But they go, and sure enough, a storm kicks up. Now, this isn't so unusual, and it seems that these experienced fishermen can handle the storm, but the wind prevents them from getting to that shore on the other side. Early the next morning, when they are physically and emotionally exhausted, they see someone walking toward them on the water. They can only assume it's a ghost, and that is what terrifies them, the uncertainty of who this could be and what this could mean. But then Jesus calls out to them, "Take heart, it's just me." And you can imagine their collective sigh of relief. But Jesus' words are not enough reassurance for Peter. Remember Peter? Eager, impetuous Peter, the disciple who always forgets to raise his hand before blurting out the answer to Jesus' every question? This moment is no different. Peter doesn't hesitate. "If it's you, Jesus," he says, "command me to come to you on the water." In the midst of fear and uncertainty, Peter seems to think the way to find out for sure if this specter walking on water really is Jesus is to see if he will invite Peter to leave the relative safety of the boat and come closer to him across the stormy waves. When I was a kid, back in the early 80s, my favorite equipment on the playground was the monkey bars, those bars that look like a horizontal ladder that you would hang from and propel yourself across, taking one bar in one hand at a time. As much as I enjoyed the monkey bars, it took me a while to master them. Over and over, I'd hang from that first bar and try to propel myself forward without falling to the ground. I fell a lot, but I kept trying until one day I could do it. I could start at one end and get all the way across without falling. But maybe you've noticed that newer playgrounds don't always have monkey bars anymore, or seesaws. The slides also, they're not as high as they used to be. These so-called safety-first playgrounds are often built on soft surfaces, not concrete or asphalt, but wood chips or that spongy stuff made from recycled tires. No more asphalt landings or skinned knees. Now, there's nothing wrong with wanting to keep our children safe on the playground, but studies have shown that when we make an environment too safe, when we make it too easy, children don't have the chance to take risks, to push themselves, literally, to new heights. And as hard as it is for us to let the children in our lives take risks and feel pain and fail, it's only when children face their fears that they find out they can handle adversity. It's only when they take risks that they discover their capacity for resilience, problem solving, and self-reliance. It's only when they take on a challenge that they discover that rising to a challenge can itself be incredibly satisfying. As a commencement speaker once said to the graduates of Ohio University, developing a skill is painful, it's difficult, and that's part of the satisfaction. You will only find meaning in what you struggle with. You will only find meaning in what you struggle with. Peter, it seems, has absorbed this message, which is one Jesus preaches often, sometimes with subtlety, like in a parable about the challenges of getting seed to bear fruit. Other times he takes it on more directly with words like, "Whoever wants to save her life will lose it," or "Pick up your cross and follow me." Peter has learned that to follow Jesus is to embrace the discomfort and struggle that comes with confronting uncertainty. Like Peter, sooner or later on the journey of faith, we too will discover that anything worth having will cost us something. Whether that something is money or time or energy or even our sense of safety, security, and certainty. Like Peter, we will discover that to take the next step toward Jesus, we're going to have to leave the relative safety of the boat. A pastor friend of mine likes to say that it is her job as a minister to help the members of her church hit their midlife crisis as early in life as possible, because this crisis creates the kind of openness and receptivity to God that few other things can. A midlife crisis is simply a moment when what we thought was certain is suddenly thrown into question. Whether that crisis is one of vocation or values or relationships or identity, it's the kind of moment the disciples experienced when, in the midst of an overwhelming storm, Jesus approached them, came to them in a whole new way, walking on water. And it is this kind of uncertainty that can open us up to the transformative work of God, that can inspire us to draw closer to God and to discover not only who God is, but what we are capable of when we come near to God. When Peter asks Jesus to command him to get out of the boat and walk on water, it's because he's learned that this is how we recognize God at work. God is the one who disrupts our usual ways of thinking and being and doing, and transforms our understanding of who we are and what we're capable of. And sure enough, it works. For a moment, Peter walks on water. But when Peter gets distracted by the storm and begins to sink, notice that he doesn't turn and swim back for the boat. He doesn't just disappear under the waves. He cries out to Jesus, "Lord, save me." He keeps his eyes on Jesus. The cycle of faith is clear: invitation, disruption, transformation, and then the realization that we don't have to ride the boat, to weather the storm, or to walk on water alone. Yes, it is God who disrupts us by calling into question everything we thought we knew. It is God who will command us to leave the safety of the boat and get up close and personal with the storm. But God is also with us in every single moment, close enough that even when we come face to face with uncertainty that unravels everything we thought we knew, that is the very place we will see God, who offers us not the comfort of certainty, but wonder and mercy and love, enough to get us through any storm. Amen.